That's James's meal. It's semolina cake with peri sauce, and this is a, what do you call it? Shrimp tempura taco. And we're going to review Final Destination, Bloodlines, and that stuff. And James is drinking, well, really it's a strawberry smoothie, but it's quite a lot like a strawberry milkshake. There's, I think it should be pretty good. So I'm going to pour that for James, and then
I better hold this.
yeah, thank you. And then let me know how it is, and you have enough for a second serving
Healthy.
here.
Yeah, exactly right. I guess. So I brought out an extra glass of water because we were out for a hike. It wasn't too hot, but
no.
Now I'm going to eat this with a fork because I'm going to be maybe handling a book.
Okay.
You see what I'm saying?
I doubt you will, though. He's going to review the Who, so I think you're going to be talking about the Who.
I know, but I just don't. This is a library book.
Yeah,
my books, I want to keep this on.
No, of course not. But I'm just saying you probably won't be.
Probably not, but I brought it out just in case. We got a lot of movies to deal with, and I might be talking about the Who a lot.
Yesterday was plus 30. Today is plus 28.
Or it will be, yeah. Or was it already?
I don't know. But that's what it's supposed to be, predicted to be today. And really, it hasn't been too hot. There's been a lot of hot days, but then we've gotten a lot of rain and it's cooled things down. It's been really lovely, actually.
It gets bad when it's cumulative days of hot, like a week or whatever.
So anyway, but this, you should be prepared for it. So I have the mulching, the mulched bed in the background that you can see, and a lot of
bit of a mulch bed here,
mulch here
the
too.
New one
but
is behind.
The new one's behind. So we did the boulevard this year, and
half of the boulevard.
It's you get free mulch from the city at Pemaquin Park here in Lethbridge. So you may as well do it. Go get free mulch, and it doesn't look half bad. So
well, you picked the best out. And we turned up at a really good time, I think.
Yeah, sometimes it doesn't look so good, but if you mess around, like just take your pitchfork and scrape around in there, sometimes you can find some better stuff.
It might do to actually bring a rake out before you go at it with a pitchfork.
Yeah.
But you had to do extra work with the pitchfork. I kept on saying, I got to bring a rake down. I kept on forgetting.
And kept forgetting. So yeah, but honestly, like we used to do it in the car.
Top notch, I had to say.
Oh, good.
Sorry for interrupting.
Okay. Well, that's just, I should tell you, it's strawberry, lots of strawberries, banana, and vanilla yogurt, and
I don't
milk.
taste the yogurt. You wouldn't think.
Yeah, he doesn't like yogurt.
I'm not a big fan. It's not a question of hating it.
Yeah.
But you see, Pauline was smart. Last second, put in the banana because that sweetened it up.
It sweetened. Yeah. So, but I was saying, we used to get the free mulch in the car, and boy, some of it stinks. And
your stuff didn't.
Yeah, some of it is like half composting or whatever. And so I would recommend you use Rubbermaid tubs, like what we have or this is a different brand. I don't think it's Rubbermaid. But anyway, some sort of tub like that.
Was pointing out how bad the stuff smelled. Yeah. I went walking through the city where they get the stuff, the city. I used to work there.
Yeah.
We'd pick stuff up. I used to do landscaping in the city. And I realized what it smells like is the dump. I used to have to hang around the dump a little bit, waiting for a place to.
And even if you have it in tubs like this, I'd still recommend you wear a mask or something if you're driving like we have a van. If you have it in the vehicle with you, and even if you have the windows open, because sometimes you don't know what's in that stuff. Anyway, but that's just me.
Your immune system is low. No, it's not just you. Like after each stem cell therapy I've taken two, they told me no, and I don't exaggerate, no yard work for a whole year afterwards. I'm not exaggerating.
Well, there was an elderly man who I went to look at a bed that had been mulched. It was at the end of a street. Sometimes they'll put plantings, at the end of little cul-de-sac or whatever, right? And so they had that, and on the other side of the planting was a wall, a big wall. So I'd went there, and the bed had been mulched, and somehow it disappeared. Where did the mulch go? Well, an elderly man came out, and he was telling me that he put it in the garbage can, and because he didn't want it there because it was unhealthy. He didn't want to breathe it in. It was not, and he was telling me all about how it was not good. And then I went to my supervisor, and he's like, well, I guess we'll have to put more mulch down. And I said, yeah, if you do, he'll just pick it back up again. So, okay, whatever. So anyway, so here is my poem, This Mulching Day. And I am, unlike the elderly gentleman, I'm a big fan of mulching because there are benefits to it. I mean, I wouldn't want to be putting a bed on top of that and sleeping on it or anything like that. And if I get really close to it, it might smell bad. I don't know, but
well, it could kill you.
I don't know. I have no idea.
Down,
but I'm a big fan of mulching. It does some good. And what I do, as I've told you before, I use the cheap 5-year dollar store landscape fabric, and then I put the mulch on top of it, and I know that the mulch will start composting, and there's no point in using expensive landscape fabric because the mulch will be composting and then weeds will grow on top of it. So they'll grow in whatever's composted, right?
No,
so
a lot of people lay down gravel or even worse, limestone.
I wouldn't recommend that. No. I'd recommend the free city mulch.
Especially here in Lethbridge, where stuff gets blown in, not just weeds, soil, stuff for weeds to grow in. And then you have to waste resources by having the stuff dug out. And
you can clean it up, whatever. But anyway, so I wrote this poem on July 13th, 2025. The summer here is hot this year, and yet I'm not concerned. Though things are dry, my plants won't die. I know they won't get burned. They're hot, but wet, because I set down mulch to help them grow. And grow they will, right up until noon sun is somewhat low. The sun's still high, so they'll get by quite well until the fall. Through drought or rain, then drought again, my plants will still stand tall. I have no fear of summer here. Mulch holds the moisture in. Though rain is rare, it holds it there, although the mulch is thin. There's just enough, it's awesome stuff, and doesn't smell too bad. The mulch was free, but priceless. We can store the wealth we had, the little rain. It's stored again, for when there's later need. It's hot a lot, but plants have got the means to drink with greed. So heat's just fine for me and mine. This mulch has beat the heat, for plants at least. They're not deceased, but I just now feel beat. I'll feel my best when I've a rest, but glad the mulching's done. Though I'm in shade, I'm not afraid for plants I've left in sun. My plants won't bake before I wake, so in the shade I'll stay. Without a care, I'll stay right there and end this mulching day. And that's how I felt when I got done the mulching job, because it's a lot of work. It's tiring, but it doesn't take too long and it's worth it. So,
incidentally, folks, that's about the toughest traditional English form. It's a ballad meter where you've got 2 rhymes in each of in the first and the third lines of the stanza. It's very tough. I think you're rhyming over 20% of the syllables.
All right. Well, it was just a silly little poem. I have a lot of exercises I do. They're not really, I don't look at that and go, oh, that's fine art. That one's going to stand the test of time and it's going to be anthologized or something like that. I have no illusions about that. But anyway, Final Destination Bloodlines. If you have watched my show a lot and if you've seen me review a Final Destination movie in the past, I love these things. They are done so well. It's such a great formula. I love the fact that, most horror movies, you're like, oh, that woman's a slut, or that guy, he's a jerk. They're gonna get theirs, or whatever. Well, death gets everyone.
Spoiler alert.
Yeah.
It's a formula now, so anyone who knows anything about them knows.
Yeah. So anyway, James will talk about the Who a bit.
Also, if you're squeamish, Don't even bother with those final.
I'm gonna move this over this
in the
away, so
sun.
you're gonna have to turn to talk or something like that because
A little bit.
I don't want it in the sun. It's gonna get too hot over there. So,
There's a butterfly up on the gable of the house.
oh, very pretty. It's a monarch. Very nice. So anyway, yeah, what would you say about Final Destination? Since you're still eating, I'll talk some more.
Well, I'm not a big fan of horror movies or whatever, but it's different. And you see, we were saying maybe there were 4 or 5 of them.
I don't know.
I'd watch another one again. You know.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd watch this again because
You already know
there's
what's gonna happen.
surprises,
Yeah.
surprises,
Yeah.
and stuff like that. Not so much will they die, but how are they going to die?
Excellent. Excellent. I have no complaints about the Final Destination movies. Any of them. They're all really great. I love the special effects. I love, there's always something like that seems like a 3D thing. You know, that's, they always play around with the 3D stuff and it's awesome. So, yeah, this is every bit as good as the other Final Destination movies I've seen.
How long have they been
love
going?
it.
20 years?
I
10
don't know. It's been, probably. It's
I'd
been a
never
long
heard of
time.
them.
I don't know how not, because I watched them. Anyway,
I guess I've just let sheltered off.
so you're probably wondering, well, why did I put the Who's next on the like underneath Final? Well, I love Final Destination, so that's why. But I watched this with James. I'm not a Who fan. I'm not a Who fan or whatever, but
I think the only Who fans in the world are guys.
Yeah.
It was hilarious. They were showing people at concerts, guys down front, guys at the back, guys all over the place.
yeah. So anyway, I was watching this with James, and I did enjoy it. I thought they did a good job on the documentary. So, yeah, but I'm not a fan or anything. So, Novocaine. This one, I guess it's an interesting idea. I'd watched a great course about genetics and stuff like that, and this is a real thing, that there are people that are born that they don't have the ability to feel pain. So this is totally real, that way, that the idea that it's coming from. It's a fictional movie, of course, and thank goodness it is. This is like a terrible Hollywood romance sort of thing, where it's like, oh, why is this guy doing this? He's beating himself up for this woman who, I don't know, I guess you're supposed to feel like, oh, she's actually a good person in the end and whatever. I was horrified watching this. I really felt sorry for the guy, and but I guess he's chosen this, so whatever. In the movie, I don't know, it bothered me. He really, really got beat up. Fahrenheit 451. James is going to be the one to talk about this one too, so I'll put that there. Cas and Dylan, I gave that bottom of the stack. I'm not really a Richard Dreyfuss fan, and
He's still doing movies.
Tatiana Maslany, or whatever her name is, that's the woman from Orphan Black. I don't like her
Does she
at
have an
all.
accent?
Well, I suppose she could do one.
Okay. But not really? Okay.
Anyway. Yeah, she's pretty, and she's very aggressive. You can tell she's a very aggressive person. So I just don't find those kind of women attractive
Like
at
Sharon
all.
Stone?
This woman is more
Even
aggressive.
worse than Sharon Stone.
Look at that smile. Yeah.
Okay.
Very aggressive. So don't like her at all, and don't like the character she plays. This was written by Jason Priestley. I think I remember seeing that somewhere. Anyway, yeah, it's not good. It's about a guy, like it's about a doctor who has brain cancer, so that's glioblastoma, and he's in the 4th stage, so he's near his end, And the thing is that's what my dad died from. So they should have looked things up to find out what the stages are and what the person is faced with, at that stage, because he wouldn't be driving himself across the country for sure.
Your dad
My dad
couldn't
went
even
blind
write.
pretty quickly once he got diagnosed, and he wasn't. He lasted a long time after that, but to say, like some people say, well, you'll have some good days, some bad days. No, they were all bad days. And
worse for him because he was allergic to opioids.
I don't know. Anyway, it's not good for anyone, I can imagine. Anyway, so it just bothered me because it's not at all realistic. It really bothers me when people make movies like that.
I was in the last stage of cancer, 7.5 months.
And it wasn't fun. And you certainly weren't in any condition to drive yourself across the country, even if
I wasn't in condition to ride across the country.
Yeah, and James, it wasn't brain cancer. So anyway, James is going to talk movies. Hello. Hi. Lots of people out enjoying the sun. And I have to move this again. The sun keeps wanting to get into the shot.
I like that kid's taste in soccer. Messy, leave them now messy.
All right, so now you're going to talk about Fahrenheit 451. And I'm not in the shade anymore, so now I'm hot.
So, bad folks in this are white people. Where have we seen this before? The folks that care about books, there was one couple, they were kind of a little bit older, that were white. But they, like there was one woman who was Oriental or whatever, Far Eastern. Well, that kind of makes sense. But most people in American society don't care. Now, I'm part African American, so I've been told by my dad. So don't take this as racist or anything like that. I think African Americans would care even less about books than the average American. But same thing with the Latinos. It's just the way it goes. So don't go around making white people like they're the ones who want to get rid of books. So I've read the book, not in the original English. I read it in a French translation of all things. It struck me as being a little bit, it was about the present day, like so much sci-fi, especially so-called cautionary tales. Fahrenheit 451 is a more realistic cautionary tale than A Handmaid's Tale or whatever it's called. Handmaid's Tale, yeah. Susan Atwood, which is totally ridiculous. But around this time, when Bradbury wrote this, I suspect it was in the 50s something, there was an assault on books, and it was coming from the left wing. It was amazing. Certain books, and really authors, got the equivalent of burned, get a bullet in the head, or more likely get sent and worked to death. Some survived that. Solzhenitsyn, an example. In Siberia or up in the northern part of Europe, I think one of the names of the place was Vorkuta. It was actually in Europe, where people were worked to death in the cold. And a lot were apparently worked to death in former Soviet Central Asia, in things like Kazakhstan. Maybe they had death camps in death by labor camps in other stands like Tajikistan, Kyrgyzstan, Uzbekistan, Turkmenistan. Left one up perhaps, but not much more than that. I think they're based in Kazakhstan. Kazakhstan's a huge country. Of course, part of the former Soviet Empire. Yeah, well, not formerly a part of the Soviet Empire. The Soviet Empire still exists, folks. It's alive and healthy, just like a cancer. Yes, it can be healthy and very unhealthy for any other entities it involves or is neighboring them. And everyone in the world is a neighbor of the Soviet Union. It's now called Russia, but it might as well be called the Soviet Union. Anyway, what the Soviet Union did was they just got rid of a lot of books, but they weren't getting rid of books entirely. They just flooded the market. They were saying a person would maybe double their readership, like fellow travelers like Farley Mowat, a Canadian, by getting published in Russian. They had lots of books, huge readership, stuff like that. It's just if you wrote stuff they didn't like, your stuff disappeared, and you were kind of lucky perhaps if you didn't disappear. Nowadays, it's even more perhaps all enveloping than what was happening in the Soviet Union. Way more effective. Everything's available, but no one's accessing this stuff. And it's the fault of people themselves. Like, I access whatever because I got to read it. It's available, but people just are in their echo chambers. They're right, left, center, up, down, whatever. They're just not reading anything else. It's all available on the internet nowadays. It's probably the equivalent of the Harvard University Library. There's stuff that's available on the internet. There's no excuse for anyone, unless there's something like Down syndrome or whatever, for them not being the equivalent of formerly a PhD. Because of all the stuff that's available on the internet, people think that they've got to be taught by other people. I don't see that. They think they've got to have exams. I don't see that. They think they've got to have assignments. I don't see that. They should do it themselves. Am I being hypocritical? I think not. I taught myself the equivalent of the first two layers of Greek at university. I started at the third level. At the end of that third level, I got 95%. In the final, I was tied for the highest. The person who got tied with me was in Harvard, I think, the next year or the year later. She took off 1 year or something like that. And I'm not sure exactly what she was studying, but I think that was one of the things she was studying. Maybe it was what she got accepted for. I'm not sure. But there's no excuse. People should be able. Once you can read, you should be able to read instructions and then be able to teach yourself. Okay, so how much time? Oh.
Sorry. We have a few minutes, 5 at least.
Yeah, this does not come recommended. It's silly, and it's
well,
racist.
the story is a good story, though.
The story, yeah, it's not bad. Like I was saying, it's not really realistic because they're not going to burn up all books.
Yeah.
They're not going to burn up, even nowadays where there's all sorts of intolerance. It's not really on the internet. The stuff's all available. Okay, so this does come recommended. Don't want this to fall off. It says, do not remove this lip.
Yeah, it might end up having to go inside the case, though.
Anyway, so it's Who's Next, and it's classic albums. This is considered a classic rock album, and maybe a classic album of all time. Put out, I think, late 1971. And it says in the top 50 for over 3 months. In the United States, it did even better. That was in England, but top 40 top 40 for 5 months in the United States. They were saying it's the best Who album, and I'm telling you, the best Who album. This one might be a little bit better musically, but with shorter numbers is Who by Numbers. And that was generally not really panned, but received with a little bit of a shrug by the music critics. And I think it's because Pete Townshend was writing to a large extent on Who by Numbers about growing old. And I guess it was unfashionable with rock critics. Like, hope I die before I get old. That's what the Who said. Mm-hmm. But they were having to deal with that, Pete Townshend, that attitude. And so I think Who by Numbers is better. This Who's Next is better than Tommy, and I think better than Quadrophenia, the album that came in between Who by Numbers and Tommy, or Who's Next. But this is very good because Pete Townshend actually is quite a bright guy, and they have him doing the usual thing. They'll have people, going through, playing different tracks. There'll be a soundboard or something like that. Well, Pete Townshend was awesome at soundboard. They also had Glyn Johns there, and Glyn Johns, if you're still alive, you're like a miracle on 2 feet. Everything that you ever touched, it just turned like into crystal. Like, I'm not talking about rock crystal, I'm talking about diamonds, everything. When he touched Rod Stewart, like a diamond. The Rolling Stones, like a diamond. The Eagles, like a diamond. The Who, like a diamond. I don't know how you did it, Glenn, but you're one of the all-time greats. So he's working away the soundboard, and you're going, well, he's the best ever, I figure. Oftentimes he's just not a producer, but an engineer. He said when he's working with the Who, he's basically an engineer anyway. The thing I'd like to see more of in this is like the original project, Lifehouse. They did play a little bit of Pure and Easy, and I am telling you, Pete Townshend, when he did that solo on his first solo album, he cut the Who. How do you do that? Because he didn't have Roger Daltrey's voice. He didn't have John Entwistle's ability to play the bass, or Keith Moon's frenetic ability on the drums. But he did an awesome version. It's the best thing the Who ever did. And it was just Pete Townshend playing all the instruments, singing all the parts and all that sort of stuff. So they did play a little bit of his stuff, and he was actually doing an acoustic version. They did play a little bit of Who's version. They had him playing on acoustic almost all of Won't Get Fooled Again. He truncated some of the synthesizer parts, but folks, if you care about rock and roll, it's one of your ultimate moments, not the ultimate moments. He's not a great singer, Pete Townshend. Hits the notes, but not a strong voice. But he's doing Won't Get Fooled Again, and you watch him playing guitar. Rolling Stone once picked him tied for Keith Richards for the top rhythm guitarist in rock and roll. They're second and third. Jimmy Page is the best. I'm not a big Led Zeppelin fan, but Jimmy Page is listened to all day and all of the night by the Kinks. Listen to You Really Got Me. That's Jimmy Page playing rhythm guitar. That was back in 65, I think. 66 maybe at the latest. He's the one who invented punk. I am telling you. Okay? So, highly recommended. Anyway.